Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be 10 palettes for spring. So it is not yet spring, so I'm pre-filming this a little bit, but we're having the start of spring weather here in Seattle. Today it really felt like spring, and yesterday too. We had the windows open, took the dog for a walk to the park, and it's making me hopeful for the gloom to start going away. It's gonna be pretty wet. Spring here tends to be pretty damp and rainy, but I am very excited for warmth and spring to come. So I don't think makeup is seasonal. There's definitely things I wear all year round, but my mood does shift season to season because of the environment around me. And so as the weather becomes less gloomy, these are some things that I think I'm gonna start reaching for a little bit more. And I thought I would use this as an opportunity to inspire you to grab for some of your palettes as well that you might not have been grabbing for the last few months because of the holidays and then the winter and the cold. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a definite soft spot for indie makeup and more high-end makeup. And I tend to take a pretty analytical approach to my makeup reviews and my makeup collection as a whole. And I have new content every week, so I'd love to have you subscribe. Okay, so I grabbed a variety of palettes here. I'm gonna go over them in no particular order. These are just when I was looking at my palette shelf. I was just like, what are the things that I think I'm gonna start grabbing for more as we move away from the gray? There are some things that are always going to be staple, like earthy toned neutrals, more grungy tones, matte brown, smoky eyes, those kind of things I wear all year round. So those aren't going to go away, but there are definitely some palettes I haven't grabbed for in the last few months, and I will probably start grabbing for more as we move into the warmer weather. Some of these are no longer available, but you might have them. Some of these are more inexpensive, some of these are really expensive, so it's a mix of things. Also, before I start, if you're curious about my makeup, I did film this video. It'll go up way before this, probably a week or two before, but I used my Nars foundation, a couple of my standard products, and then I put the McGrath Lunar New Year quad. This is the re-release of the Venus and Fleurs Voyeuristic Vixen. Sometimes alliteration gets me. So I have this as my inner corner, this in my crease and on my lid, and then this special shifty shade over it. So really, really happy with the look today, which is why I was able to film between liking the look and having a few hours of quiet time and no interruptions. I was able to film a few things. So first off, I grabbed two palettes from some indie brands. One of these is sadly no longer available, but I will talk about it first real quick. And it is the Le Jardin palette from Musée Beauty or Kai Love Beauty. So they are no longer in business. I don't know if they have any stock left. I know they were selling it off at a discount. I have the original. They did come out with a second version of this. And I really like this little palette, and it is very much a little spring palette. So I will be grabbing this more in the spring. Even with them going out of business, this doesn't stop you from using your makeup. It's just a beautiful little spring palette. It's a garden themed. You've got some really nice like bright purples. You've got this really pretty green. I mostly like this for slightly more monochromatic looks. So carnation with begonia, sorrel with basil, and then like either one of the purpley tones or a mix of them with violet. So I don't really grab peony or dahlia, but I don't really like pinks. But I really do like this palette, and the metallics are more of a standard metallic, but they're really pretty. So especially when you want a soft, easy look, this is something I grab for. I know my friend Steven, I think, has Le Jardin too. I don't remember exactly. I know someone does, but if you have this one or the second version of it, because this was limited edition, I recommend pulling it out and using it. I think the quality is really nice, and I'm sad that they went out of business. And then the next palette is from a local brand, and I think this is kind of a fall/spring palette for me. I think this might have been in my fall palette video too, and I did use it a bit at the start of like the early fall before it got too cold. And it is the Druid palette from Fenty Cosmetica. So this is their very first palette. I have two of their palettes. I have this and the Bard palette. The Bard palette would also fit in here too. It's got like a bright yellow, it's mustard, it's very, for me it's also kind of a fall / spring palette. I don't have the new palette. I do really want it. I'm just not buying anything at the moment, really. And so it was like, I'll hold off and see what other people think. But it is really beautiful. The new one is the Rogue. I really do want it. I'm jealous of people who got it in PR. But the Druid palette is really nice. This was their first palette. And I really like this. The quality is really good. My only complaint when I got this was that it was hard to read the font. And they've definitely worked on that. And that these two shades for me were a little too similar, but that's a personal thing. But it's very earthy, and I think fall and spring, I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood for earthy tones all year round, but I think what really makes me want to wear this in the spring is the shimmers in here. So you can ground it with, some more earthy neutral mattes, and then you've got these really beautiful, shifty, shiny shades that just make me think, I think like plants growing, flowers sprouting, like that kind of thing makes me think of shiny, bright colors. But like, obviously these aren't bright, but they're still like very reflective, very shiny. And it's just one of those color stories, that earthy tone color story really pulls me in fall as things are, getting crisp and cool. And then in the spring, as plants are starting to like come back alive, is when like I said, I use earthy tones all year, but those are like the times where it's like really, really there. Okay, so the next palette was one that I immediately thought of and had grabbed, and it is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. This is very much a spring to summer palette for me. I wear this a lot when it's actually warm out. I did last year a lot, but it is such a pretty palette. I don't remember if this is discontinued or not. They have discontinued a bunch of palettes, but really love this. It's flowery, it's springy. In the summer, I really like wearing these two tones, like as an inner corner pop with some bronzer, but both the like murky green tones and the more like soft peachy pinks just really really say spring to me, and like that transition to warmer weather. So I have the hiccups again. And then also just the whole vibe of the palette with all of the plants. Really, really love this one. And then sticking with like flowery plant theme things, I had to grab the Trixie Plant Gay palette. I love this palette. This was the first palette I tried from them, I think, and fell in love. And then I bought some of the ones that came out before this. Really love this. It is so spring. It's got some more teal shades. It's got bright green. It's got like, some neutrals. It's got some pink pops. I actually really like this like more purpley pink right here. Really love this palette. I have used this a bit over the fall and winter, like these neutrals and this Totally. A lot of people think it's Toad Ally, but it's Totally. I've used those shades a bit in the fall, but when you incorporate this side, it really says spring to me. So I'm excited to get some more use out of this because I really love this palette. And I also just realized that I have 11 palettes, not 10, but that's fine. It's my channel. Do what I want. The next palette is also from Kaleidos, and it is the Futurism 7 Sashimi City. This is still available, and this and Lunar Lavender are my favorites, and Lunar Lavender is kind of an honorable mention here, but I really love this. It is such a pretty neutral palette. So you've got 4 mattes, 2 shimmers. So you've got like a more yellow toned warm matte and a nice warm brown, and then these two have a little bit more pink to them. And then you've got this really pretty like yellowy, it's like peach with like a yellow gold or like a green gold sparkle. And then this one is kind of like the shade I have on my lid, but like more subdued. It's like a pink gold duochrome shift, but it's a little more toppery, it's a little softer, it's a little more wash of sparkle. Over glitter glue, it does become really impactful though, but it's not as foiled as what I have on my lid. But this, really love this. This is a go-to in the spring for me, and it was last year too. So definitely gonna be grabbing this. Okay, and then next I have the Natasha Denona Triochrome. So like I said, I've said before, I'm still kind of on pause with Natasha Denona as a brand of buying new stuff, but I do really love the stuff I have from the brand, and I really like this palette. I'm glad I got it for half off. I would not pay $130 for this. I don't think it's worth that, but I do think it was worth the $60 that I paid. Really beautiful. It's got some really nice pastel shades. It's got some light shades, and then it's got the 3 multi-chromes. They're not the shiftiest multi-chromes, but they are really beautiful. Scarab is really beautiful. Color Flip is really beautiful. Kinetic is like more duochrome. Really unique shades in here. Like some of these don't really work on my skin tone. Like Vertex right here, and this one doesn't really work that well. This one isn't that great, but like these, you can blend these two together pretty well. These yellowy tones are really nice. I like the peachy tones. I love manganese, so plutonium is really nice too. So there are some really good colors here. It's a nice pop of color palette for the mattes, and then you can do, you know, something really pretty with the special shades. So definitely gonna use this a little bit more in the spring than I have been. Okay, and next I have a palette from Nomad. So if you want really bright, colorful palettes, they do have a bunch of those. The Monteverde palette, the Paradise Islands palette. I think of those a little more summer because they're really bright, bold colors. But for spring, I had to grab the Fête de Provence. So this one had some mixed reviews, but I do really love this palette. The reason it got mixed reviews is because some of the shades up here are really light. But I think this is a really nice spring palette. I really love the cool tone side over here, and I really like the shades over here too. I would say, I think it was, I'm forgetting right now. I don't really grab the top 3 shades here, but I like these shades. So for like a simple look of this yellow with this shimmer, or this with this, like, you know, pairing them 1-to-1, I think they look really beautiful. And then I can do a more complicated look if I use these. These 3 shades, I think the peachy one kind of works, but the yellow and the pink didn't show up on my skin tone. So I just kind of avoid those, but if you are lighter than me, they might work, they'll work on you. I did get the Sent Me in PR, and I do have a code with Nomad. It's just Bones, and it saves you 10%. It's not affiliated. I don't earn any money, it's just to save you money. So I do really love this palette. I really loved using this, and I used it a bunch when I first got it, and then I kind of tapered off as other stuff came out and I was reviewing more. But as spring starts to come in, I'm really excited to start grabbing this more. Okay, so next is another Natasha Denona palette, and it is one of my favorites and one of her most hated palettes, and it is the Zendo palette. I really love this palette. I have mentioned this in a lot of videos before. I really like it. I think people get confused by the color story because it has warm and cool tones. You just have to be really thoughtful about using them. You can't just throw any 2 shades together, but I don't do that anyway. I know some people said the cream to powders didn't work that well for them, but I have no issue with them. I think especially the Mantra shade, really beautiful. And then Breath pairs nicely with it to like blend the edges or put as an inner corner or something. Really like this. I know a lot of people didn't like the shimmers. They also said that the shimmers weren't impactful enough. They're not as sparkly and foiled as her shadows normally are. But I like that it's softer, kind of like this. It's like softer, subtle looks. It just feels less heavy, less sparkly, less intense. And I like that. You can have color that way, like especially using the blues and stuff. You can have some color without it being like bam color. And I like bam color, but I also like subdued color. So really like this. I grab it fairly regularly, but I feel like knowing me and knowing the last year or 2 of you having this, I think spring to summer is when I use this the most. The next palette is another expensive one, tied with the Natasha Denona for most expensive, and it is the Pat McGrath Mothership. This is, what is it called? Utopian Dream. Why was that hard for me? I really like this palette. I know people were mad when it first came out because the promo made it look like it would be more rainbow than it was, all of that, but I love this palette. It is one of her best, and it is definitely a spring palette. You've got more of a mauve tone and a rosy brown here for like a really neutral look. You've got her champagne, of course. There's always some kind of highlight shade. You can do a neutral look with either this bronze color or the more pinky bronze. So you can, pair those and either lean more just bronze or pink bronze. You've got this really beautiful coral here. Love this. It's also a nice blush color. You've got a multi-chrome that's really special, nicer than the Natasha Denona ones. And then these two special shades are so good. I have 6 motherships, and I really like the special shades in all of them, but these were the first 2 that I swatched and I actually gasped. Like, I was like, oh, those are so pretty. Like, I was like taken aback at how pretty, how shifty, how special they were. I love these. And this being like a blue, purple, pink one, and this being like gold, peach, pink, they're very springy colors. So I'm very excited. I've even grabbed like my purpley palette from like Lethal, or a purple palette from my Viseart purple palette, and then put one of these over it. Or just, I've even just worn this one, especially like just rubbed it on my lid. Love this palette. Really excited to use it more once the weather makes me feel in the mood for it. I've been more gravitating towards like subliminal and subversive and those kind of tones, like cool tone, grungy tones a lot more, but, and Moonlit Seduction was also a really nice winter palette, but this is definitely more springy and vibrant, so I'm excited to use this. Okay, so like I said, I accidentally grabbed 11 palettes, because I can count, and so I've got 2 left. So the next one is going to be the Nouveau palette from ABH. I really like this palette. I'm also very happy I didn't have to pay for it. I got it with a gift card. Really, really excited to use this. I've been gravitating towards rose metals a lot over the last few months because it's again earthy, but it's more of a grungy earthy, like a muted earthy, which is my vibe most of the year. This is a little more bright and a little more soft. So you've got a couple soft shades, especially down here if you are lighter than me. I don't use Paloma. You've got a nice terracotta. I am a sucker for a terracotta. You've got a green. And then you've got these really green toned shimmers, like green here, green here, green here, peachy. You've got this wisteria color. So you've got some nice, colorful, bright shades. So I think this is going to be a go-to spring-summer palette. I have used it a handful of times, but I've used rose metal way more. This I've used a handful, and I think it's gonna be, as we switch to warmer weather, softer looks are what I'm gonna really want, and I'm very excited to use this. It just makes me think kind of like the Le Jardin. It's like a garden color story. It's earthy, but like more like in a bright spring way. And then the last palette that I grabbed is one that actually came out around the holidays, and I did use it a lot then, especially as I was reviewing it in like November and early December, and I haven't touched it in the last month or so. Actually, no, it's March now, so it's been a couple months. I haven't used it really I've used it once this year, but I have a feeling that as we start moving into warmer weather, brighter weather, this is something I'm gonna grab a lot, and it is the Wild Star palette from Isamaya. So I really love both palettes from them, but I've been in the mood from that industrial, like grungy dark vibe more. And this is just bright and happier. So you've got neutral mattes, so you've got a cream color, a nice like tan brown, a nice chocolate brown, and a really nice black. And then you've got these like pinky purple tones here. You've got a blue, and then these shades are really beautiful, like everyday neutrals, but with a twist. Like this is a good one and done, like literally just that blended. And then this is like a gold duochrome. This is a gold iridescent duochrome, and this is like a gold peach, kind of similar again to what I have in my lid, but still different. Like this could be an honorable mention. And so the 3 palettes with like a pink gold duochrome, but they're all very different versions of that idea. And I really appreciate nuance in my eyeshadows and in my eyeshadow looks. So I, for one, like having all 3 different versions of that color. Okay, so those are my picks, especially with the honorable mention of what's on my eyes. So let me know in the comments below what you think of my picks. What are the palettes that you're going to be grabbing for this spring? I'm so excited for warmer weather and less rain. That is one thing I like about Seattle, is especially summer is very dry. Downside of that is there's wildfires, but we finally have less rain and less gray. And I'm excited for the gray to go away. It is not good for my mental health. So let me know what palettes you're going to be grabbing for as we transition into spring and warmer weather. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.